Hi everyone, welcome back to Brain Dump. Today I'm going to be talking about Life is Strange because it is, one, my current hyperfixation, and two, such a cool franchise of games, and it's really gotten me back into gaming. The main reason I'm making this episode is because the new Life is Strange game Double Exposure is coming out in October, and I am just so excited for it. The last Life is Strange game was in 2021, and that was True Colors, and there's been a lot of changes of the game developers and the artists since then, so I'm really curious to see how different it's going to be, but just from watching the trailer, it looks so beautiful, and I cannot wait to play it. And I just want to yap about Life is Strange. Okay, so I'm going to rank the games. There are, let's see, we got Before the Storm, Life is Strange 1, Life is Strange 2, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, Wavelengths, and then Life is Strange True Colors. 2 of those are DLCs, but they're so good and they make these stories so detailed that I count them as a full game. Okay, coming in at number 6 is The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. So, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit was a prequel DLC to Life is Strange 2, and you play as a little boy named Chris. His mom died and you're living with his father. It's like a alcoholic father simulator. That's not funny. Anyway, I thought this game was cool because since you're playing as a little kid, you see the world as a little kid, and you can use Chris's imagination to get tasks done, which I thought was super creative. The soundtrack to this one is also really good. As you will come to understand, all of these games have an amazing soundtrack. Honestly, the thing I didn't necessarily like about this game was the execution of the things that the character was supposed to do. They made it into a chore list of all the things that Chris had to do in order to find all the parts to his superhero outfit, and at the end, your character meets Sean and Daniel, and Life is Strange 2 picks up exactly where Captain Spirit ended, which I thought was cool. Since The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit isn't that long, I don't really have too much to say about it, but I thought it was good. It just wasn't my absolute favorite just because it was so short. Speaking of Life is Strange 2, that brings me to number 5. Listen. Everyone sleeps on Life is Strange 2. Even the game publishers, they never talk about it or promote it. It's honestly kind of sad because it's such a great game. Truly, it's just on a whole, there are other games in this franchise that I prefer. So the soundtrack to this game, per usual, is top tier. And this game, it was different in terms of powers. So usually in these games, you play as the person with the superpower, but in this one, you play as his older brother. I think the game made up for that aspect by determining the little brother's morality based on the things that you teach him and the things that you tell him. There are 7 different endings to Life is Strange 2, and it's all based on how Daniel was raised throughout the game, and if you teach him to steal, if you let him curse, it's all up to you, and I thought that was super cool as well. I also love that all these games are within the same universe. There's a part where they see Arcadia Bay, which is the town from the first game, and depending on what you chose at the end of Life is Strange 1, it'll generate a different scene because, well, I'll explain the end of Life is Strange 1 once I get to it on my ranking. And speaking of them all being in the same universe, they completed a character arc in this game for sure. So in the first game, the protagonist's best friend's name is Chloe, and Chloe has a stepdad that she calls Step Douche, and his name is David. So when I play Life is Strange, I hated David. Oh my god, hated him. He's just a hateable character. He was a verbally abusive asshole, and he treated Chloe like crap. But, also, spoiler alert, if you couldn't already tell, David showed up in episode 5 of Life is Strange 2, and I didn't even recognize him until the scene was almost over. The ponytail really threw me off. So, David was also in Before the Storm. I just feel like he's the most completed character throughout the franchise because you see him mature into a good person and a good stepdad, and I think it was really cool that he was in the second game too. I really liked the relationship between Sean and Daniel. It reminded me a lot of my siblings and I growing up, just fighting over stupid shit like who gets the last candy bar, and I don't know, just the little fights between them were so realistic. Oh my god. And the voice acting in this game was so good. I believe the guy that played Sean won a BAFTA for his performance, which was really well deserved. The thing I really didn't like about this game was the lack of mystery. The story is about 2 brothers that are fugitives because Daniel's power killed people and they had to run away. The story is them making their way from Washington to Mexico, which is a really long fucking way. But there's no mystery. Like, I love a mystery, and that's what I love so much about the first game, and even before the storm, there's just that mystery element that keeps you wondering, and this game didn't have that. Another thing I didn't like about this game is how little time the side characters got. If I'm thinking about it, this game probably has the largest amount of cool characters that you just want to, like, talk to and get to know, but they just don't get enough screen time. There's a point where Sean and Daniel go train hopping, and they wind up with this group in California that works at a weed farm. There's like a part of the game where you're cutting the weed. It's kind of cool. But anyway, the characters from that camp are so interesting, and they have such great stories, but I feel like I couldn't fully take it all in because they were there for such a short amount of time, and there were so many interesting characters I feel like should have played such a bigger part in the story. I liked Life is Strange too, even though a lot of people sleep on it. Those were just a few things that I didn't particularly like in that game. Alright, number 4 is Wavelengths. This is a prequel DLC to Life is Strange True Colors, and it takes place the year before Alex, who's the playable character in True Colors, arrives in Haven Springs, Colorado. Haven Springs is a fictional place, but I have never wanted to go to a place more. Like, I'll talk about it more when I get to True Colors, because you don't really see the town in Wavelengths, but I just wanted to say that. Wavelengths is Steph's game, and I think out of all the characters to get a DLC, she was the right choice for sure. Steph first appeared in Before the Storm, and she made a comeback in True Colors with her own DLC simply because the fan base loved her so much. I love Katie Bentz, and her performance as Steph is truly so good, and that's why I'm ranking it above Life is Strange 2. I think she just stole the show, and I don't think the game would be the same without her voice. Steph is also just such a relatable character, like a dorky lesbian who's obsessed with music. Hello? So in this DLC, Steph works at a record store, and she hosts a radio show in the back, which is also, what the fuck, that's so cool. And when you play as Steph, you have to read the ads, and you get to choose the music you want to play, and you get to take the calls, and I think the whole radio booth concept was extremely cool. There's also things around the store that you find that brings up memories from people in Steph's past, like Chloe and Rachel from Before the Storm. They made a little cameo, which was so pleasantly surprising. And also people from True Colors, like Gabe, who, spoiler alert, dies in that game, and it's kind of cool seeing their friendship from before because he dies so early on in True Colors, you don't really get to see it. So in that sense, I think it's a really cool way of getting to know Steph's character, and I also love that they brought back Mikey from Before the Storm and they played like D&D through a video chat. I thought that was a good touch. The only thing that I didn't like about this game was that you never get to leave the store and not a single person comes in. Like, it spans through a year. No customers in the whole year. But overall, like, that was my only issue with it. Alright, we're getting down to the top 3. Number 3 is True Colors. I didn't think this was going to be my number 3 because I love True Colors. But the last 2 on the list just couldn't go anywhere else. Those are my top 2. Okay. Life is Strange True Colors. Out of all of the aesthetics in these games, this one is for sure my favorite. It's a small town called Haven Springs, and I love the cozy feeling to it. It's just a small town that you practically meet everyone in, and one of my favorite aspects of this game is how much you can roam. In a lot of video games, they have limitations on where you can go and who you can talk to, but I found that in this game, as long as you're outside, you can wander through the entire town, and there are like different dialogues and conversations you can have with these side characters throughout the games, and that's something that the other Life is Strange games just don't have. The main reason I really love this game is Alex's power. She's able to read people's emotions and tap into them to help them. There are some points where you can choose to take someone's anger away or take their fear away, and that'll impact how Alex will act for the rest of the scene. And I also like that you can just like read people's minds before you go up and talk to them. I wish I had that power. I wish I had that power. Another part of this game that I loved is Steph and Alex. And obviously I'm not the only one who loved them because they wrote a whole ass book about them. But in my opinion, Steph and Alex have the most natural, flowing, and healthy relationship I have ever seen in a video game. I don't know, maybe it's the mocap, because this was the first game that actors did the entire game in motion capture suits, but the body language was just so natural, and it added that extra element to the game. And even if you chose Ryan, which is the other love interest, it's still such a great story, and you get a different kind of relationship with each of them. There's also a part of this game, I think it's chapter 3, they have a LARP, a live action roleplay. Listen, I have never done a LARP before, but after doing it in this game, I really want to participate in one. And no, I don't give a single shit that it's lame. It looks so fun. I thought the whole LARP sequence was one of my favorite parts of the whole game. I also love the plot twist at the end. per usual in these games, the bad guy is always the nice guy in the beginning. So I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending of this game. The choices seemed a little bland compared to the other games. Like, yes, it's cool, you get to choose where Alex will go in life from that point, but it's not as stressful as a choice like either killing your best friend or killing the whole town like it was in the first game. Like, that's a choice. Leaving town or staying, that's not really like the big choice I'd pictured for the end of this game. I also didn't like that I went into the game knowing about Gabe's death and how early he died in the game. Like, Gabe dying was never a secret. Like, it was in the trailer for the game and he dies in the first chapter. I just feel like there was no time to form a relationship with him, and then like all of a sudden we're mourning a brother we barely knew, which is so sad because Alex literally came to this town to be with her brother and then he dies on the first day. That's so sad. All right, number 2 is Before the Storm. First of all, Daughter had a whole album made specifically for this game, and it's perfect. The music fits perfectly with the scenes, and it tells such a story. Before the Storm is a prequel to the first Life is Strange game, and you play as Chloe, who was Max's best friend in the first game, and it tells the story of Rachel Amber, and in the first Life is Strange, you see all these missing person posters for Rachel Amber, and as the first game progresses, you learn more, and eventually, spoiler alert, you find her dead body. Yay! No, but I really like the way that this game was executed. There's so much talk in the first game about, oh, Rachel Amber, everyone loved her, she was so perfect, blah, blah, blah. Going into it, I'm like, alright, she better live up to the hype. And Rachel Amber is probably one of my favorite characters throughout all the games. She's so complex, and Kylie Brown, who voices her, has such a raw performance. There's one scene in particular I love the most. It's when Chloe and her are in Rachel's bedroom, and Rachel just found out her mom isn't actually her birth mom, and she's crying, and it's so real, and it's so good. Like I said before, I love how David has a full character arc in these games, but in Before the Storm, he is an asshole. Oh my god, I hate him in BTS. Like, he's all up in Chloe's business all of the time, in the most disrespectful way. I also thought it was cool that they brought back so many characters from the first game to appear at the school in this one. So Rachel and Chloe used to go to Blackwell Academy, which is an art school in Arcadia Bay. Chloe got expelled before Max got there in the first game, so they never got to go to school together, but I thought it was cool that in this game you actually get to see Chloe walking around campus and how she got expelled. I also loved how much William was included in this game. William is Chloe's dad, and he died in a car accident literally right before Max moved away to Seattle. Like, in the bonus episode, it shows that she left straight from the funeral to Seattle. Like, they couldn't wait a few days. This game kind of made me understand why Chloe is the way she is, and it's cool how close she feels with her dad, that like she spends time with him in her dreams, and he kind of guides her. The bonus episode in Before the Storm is another part that puts it so high up on my list. It's called Farewell, and you play as young Max, and your best friend is Chloe, and it's cool because their dynamic is so different than it is in the first game, because, you know, Chloe's dad died, and Rachel went missing, and Chloe becomes all dark and stormy because all that shit, and it's kind of cool just to see what she was like before all that shit happened to her. The only thing I really didn't like about this game is the time gap that it left. So the first Life is Strange game is about this storm, and it's going to hit Arcadia Bay, hence why it's called Before the Storm. But there's still like a year gap that we don't see what's going on and exactly how Rachel went missing, and I just wish we could have seen more of her because she was such a great character. Okay, number 1, the original Life is Strange 1. This game is so fucking good, and I cannot recommend it enough. The teen angst, the music, the scenery, the characters, the things to explore, it is just so good. Max Caulfield is the main character, and she finds out pretty early on in the game that she can reverse time, and you kind of have to figure out how to use that power for good in her life. And I think personally that Max is the best protagonist out of all of the Life is Strange games. Her inner dialogue, her sass, depending on what choices you can make Max into a mean-ass bitch or a boss-ass bitch. Like, I love Max. Okay, Kate Marsh. From the very beginning, it matters what you say to her and how you act towards her, because depending on what you say and what you do, she will or won't jump off the roof to her death. And I love Kate. I think she's a really sweet character, but in the few times that I've played this game, I've only been able to save her once. Like, you really have to pay attention to her in order to save her life. I think that episode 2, it's really strong with that rooftop scene and the fact that you can't even rewind time. It makes it so much more stressful. Max and Chloe's friendship is another part of this game that truly makes it what it is. my first playthrough, I was like, okay, bestie vibes only. Like, right? Only besties? But honestly, they're soulmates. I'll die by that statement. Max is able to make so many little friendships throughout the game, which is cool. And I don't know, Life is Strange just knows how to make cool characters. And there are some people that Max converses with that I really would have wanted to see more of. There's a scene when, spoiler alert, they find Rachel Amber's dead body in the ground. And oh my god, Ashley Burch's performance as Chloe was top tier. I think she won a BAFTA for that, like 99% sure. But it was so deserved because that scene made me sob. Like, I didn't even know who Rachel Amber was as a character yet because I hadn't played BTS, but that scene, oh my god, it's so good. I know I emphasized how good the soundtracks were in these games before, but I feel like, especially in the first game, the music plays such a big part in the story, and some of these scenes just wouldn't be complete without the music that they have. I also love the art style in the first game especially. It just has that almost imperfect look to it because in the later games the graphics become much better, which they become beautiful games, and I think the animation in the first game is just charming is the best way to put it. My absolute favorite thing about Life is Strange 1 is definitely Max's photos. There are so many photo ops throughout the game, and Max is a photography student. Of course, she's going to take advantage and take a picture. I just think taking pictures is a cool way to interact with the game. The first game just has such a nostalgic feeling to it, and I don't think a game has ever made me so emotional because you get so invested in the story and in these characters. I just love Life is Strange, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of it. So, yeah. I'm currently playing this video game called Road 96, and I'm really enjoying it so far. You basically play as these teenagers that are on the run and trying to cross over the country's border because the government is very controlling, and when these teens are caught trying to escape the country, they get sent to this place called the pits, and they basically like never see the light of day again. And depending on the choices that you make, you can alter like who wins the presidential election, which would change how the teenagers are treated. I think I'm on my like 6th character, and I think you could play as 10 different teenagers, and you meet characters along the way that are all kind of connected, but just in the sense that all these people come across your character when you're on the road. I think it's a cool concept, and it's good so far. So, books of the week, I am reading The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Being honest, I've been in a reading slump this week. I've only read like 50 pages of that book, and I don't know, I love reading, but this week I haven't had the energy to pick up the book. Songs of the week, The Road by Cocoon, Good Luck Babe by Chapel Roan, Obstacles by Sid Matters, Ash in the Sun by Wunderbar, I Wanna Love You But I Don't by Ash, and Juna by Claro. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you if you're here. And if you haven't played Life is Strange, you should, because the first episode's free. I hope you have a great week. Remember that you're loved, you're valued, and you're appreciated. And go outside, because that's important. Okay, I love you. Goodbye.